Coors Field prepares a banquet of vaccines for 1,000 Coloradans. This could be the path to mass vaccinations. And we check on how the rollout's going in one of Colorado's most remote spots. A Republican leader in Douglas County claims he was sent mail bombs. Police don't seem to know anything about that. Federal prosecutors say they caught an insurrectionist from Colorado who tried to flee the country after attacking a police officer at the Capitol. And the idea of selling one of Colorado's busy highways to a foreign corporation. But don't worry about it, they're Canadians. And this is next. Here's the thing with vaccines. We can dribble out doses forever. Eventually, Colorado, everywhere else, is going to need to figure out how to do mass vaccinations the way that we did mass testing. The arena, formerly known as the Pepsi Center, was the testing site, and now it looks like Coors Field may be where we go for the shots. UC Health is going to do a 1,000-person mass vaccination test over the weekend outside Coors. It is by appointment only, and those people have already been invited. If this clinic goes well, there will be another one end of the month. That time, they'll shoot for 10,000 shots over 2 days. That clinic will again be by appointment only for people who have been pre-registered with UC Health. 5.8% of Colorado's population has received the first dose of the vaccine. That is up a few tenths of a percent from yesterday's number. That is 333,632 people. 70,000 Coloradans have received both doses. The vaccination process is slowed down by the pace of the vaccine supply, and that goes for Denver out to rural counties, where they tell us they're ready to do more if more shots arrive. Arnusha Roy has that.
Right now, Ouray County gets an average of 100 vaccines a week in a county with a population close to 5,000.
Yeah, we can do about 100 a day.
The public health director gives a little insight into what the rollout has been like.
Well, we don't have nursing homes. We don't have dormitories. We don't have a prison system. We're, congregate care settings. We don't have a lot of that stuff. So we're pretty low on the totem pole when it comes to resource allocation.
The feds send vaccines to the state, and for the state-run part of the distribution plan, allocations so far are based on a couple of factors, like county population, number of people in each phase that still need vaccinations, first dose completion rates, and how many essential workers are in that county.
Our state as a whole could distribute 3 to 5 times as much vaccine with the current system. So there's simply a lack of vaccines.
Equitable access is important, which is why Colorado is working with larger hospitals, pharmacies, along with community-based organizations.
Some in urban areas like Aurora with Salute Health, but also in rural areas like the San Luis Valley and increasingly other areas.
Another example is Summit County working with neighboring areas to reach more people 70 and older and bring the vaccine closer to them. The state is continuing to work on options with agencies.
We've talked to them about if they're able to vaccinate and meet some of our equity goals, then we can use the 10% and help subsidize what they're normally getting every week.
Back in Ouray County, there is an understanding.
It's not like we're not as important or we're less. There's a limited amount of resources. Like I said, without having a hospital and that healthcare system, we don't have a lot of people in that 1A category, those healthcare workers. So we can move pretty quickly to 1B.
But it doesn't eliminate the frustration.
The tension has been high. Everyone wants the vaccine as fast as possible. And obviously we want to get it out as fast as possible.
For Next, I'm Anusha Roy.
Colorado Hospital Association acknowledged the frustration with the limited number of appointments. They've been filling up pretty fast. The state, therefore, providers are not getting much of a heads up on how many doses are headed their way week to week, so they're hesitant to offer more appointment slots. Well, if you have a drink in your hand, raise it in a toast to Colorado's weekly positivity rate dropping under 5% for the first time since mid-October. That is the point where public health experts say that it should be manageable. The head of the Parker Republicans claims that he has received mail bombs. But Parker police tell me they're investigating no such thing. Parker Republicans leader Mark Hall has since deleted his online claim about receiving mail bombs. A social media post where Hall suggested that he was the victim. He was the guy who set up a web page and posted the home addresses of public health workers. His threats against public health employees, by his own admission, were his attempt to try and pressure Democratic Governor Jared Polis into relaxing COVID-19 regulations. Mark Hall defended his actions, saying that what he fought for was right. In a post claiming that he had been sent mail bombs, he also wrote, "While I should not have made a post of officials who have ruined many lives/businesses, I brought attention to the problem." After we asked Hall about this mail bombs claim, that's serious stuff, he deleted it. Again, Parker police say they are investigating no such incident involving the head of Parker Republicans. Federal prosecutors say that an insurrectionist from Colorado tried to flee the country after the failed coup at the Capitol. Jeffrey Sable, a geophysicist from Jefferson County, is accused of assaulting a police officer during that attack at the Capitol. Prosecutors say that Sable was involved in this moment where the mob dragged an officer down the flight of stairs before the officer was beaten. The feds say Sable tried to fly to Switzerland to escape justice, and when that didn't work, he tried to kill himself. A question that we've received often over the years: when's E470 going to be free to drive? 2076. No joke, 2076. E470 will be free to drive in the year 2076. That is when the road is turned back over to CDOT. Now, in the meantime, there's a Canadian company that wants to buy that toll road. Buy it for an insane amount of money that could be used to fund all kinds of road projects across Colorado. The proposal has been rejected. Being Canadian, they politely keep persisting. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
Believe it or not, there are roads in the metro area that do not have money problems, mainly because the 47 miles of E470 get funded every time a car enters the highway.
As you've seen in our actions by our board the last 4 years, we've frozen toll rates. Our intent is to take those rates lower.
E470's director, Tim Stewart, projects toll rates that get cheaper over time. But there is a proposal that we first told you about in 2019 that could leverage E470's success to pay for transportation projects beyond E470.
I suspect that the E470 Authority is working to drive a silver stake in this concept.
Former Aurora Mayor Bob Laguerre just led a citizen review of a $9 billion offer to buy E470 by Rotis, a Canadian pension investment fund. Of the $9.2 billion, $4.2 billion would go to the 5 cities and 3 counties E470 runs through.
That would build roads and make connections basically all over the eastern metro area.
That fee that they choose to pay when they drive E470, not tax dollars, but fee, and it would now be diverted to be used elsewhere. I think you now enter the argument of a fee versus a tax.
It makes sense as part of the metro transportation system.
Rotis President Michael Shirotis, the rhyming is pure coincidence, used to be the director for CDOT's high-performance transportation enterprise. The HPTE looks for public-private partnerships similar to the one he's seeking with E470. The offer from Rotis would lock in specific toll rates that adjust with inflation, meaning the toll rate would go up and not down like E470 anticipates without making a deal like this. So why would a company be willing to pay $9 billion today on the bet that 50 years worth of tolls will lead to a profit?
Why would we do that? Because we believe that the toll revenues at whatever the limited rates would be will be sufficient to pay us back for that money at our risk, plus, reasonable rate of return.
For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.
E470 still has no plans to give up control. It has $1.5 billion in debt that it plans to pay off by 2041. It becomes toll-free when CDOT gets that road in 2076, assuming state legislators don't tinker with that agreement over the next 55 years. Hey, you are building a football field and community gathering place down in a small mapped out of a town on Colorado's southern border. Since Wednesday, your Word of Thanks campaign has raised more than $70,000 so that Branson can build a field for its 6-man football team. Opponents don't want to come in and play them on the rock-hard piece of ranch land that they're currently trying to use for football. You can still get in on this if you want. Text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 if you want to get in on just the first plain old fun Word of Thanks campaign that we have done. Over $70,000 that you've raised brings the community's entire effort pretty close to $250,000. They're going to be building more than just an artificial turf football field. They are going to create a spot where the community can hold events together for years to come. It's really amazing what all of you together have done for that small town in Los Animas County. Look forward to taking a drive down there and seeing the field someday and saying, you know what? I know the people who built that.
What's tougher than a weed? You can't get rid of them no matter how hard you try.
Where do Denver's downtown tumbleweeds come from? I mean, they gotta come from somewhere. And parents to the rescue as hangry kids struggle through another day of remote learning. For good news ends next.
Winter is making a comeback to Colorado. We're tracking the storm system sitting in California that is already sending that snow into Colorado's high country. It'll increase in intensity overnight into early tomorrow morning. The metro area will start off dry for your Saturday. By late tomorrow evening, we'll be tracking just a few isolated snow showers coming through the city. But again, you have to wait till about 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow evening, and it'll be less than an inch. Out to the west, it's a different story where we have winter weather advisories going with about 6 to 12 inches of snowfall stacking up. Still going to be a seasonal day for us tomorrow with highs in the upper 40s. Bit of a breeze, warm in southeastern Colorado with low 30s in the high country. A cold front swings in, that drops us off into the upper 30s Sunday and Monday. Couple of flurries around, and then we'll be tracking a stronger storm next Tuesday.
Many students in Colorado are still doing remote learning these days. You know, obviously that's tough on them, can take a toll on their social life as well. Parents in Jefferson County know that for sure. Their solution? It's the good news we need on a Friday.
We have maybe around 40 volunteers who throughout the week have been driving around the Jefferson County District to deliver chips and queso. Hey, we have some chips and queso for you.
My name is Lindsay Datko.
Hi. I'm a parent. I'm also an educator and an advocate for kids to get back into in-person learning.
I had no clue. I was like, who are these people? And then you guys came out with the chips and queso. I was super happy.
Jesse. We have about 800 to 1,000 kids receiving this gesture.
It gives me a good mood, I guess. Makes me feel pretty good.
We have noticed that our secondary kids have suddenly been losing their ability to remain optimistic, have kind of tanked in a sense, and we wanted to work together to do something to let them know that they are cared about, that we know this is hard on them.
School is hard right now, so we were trying to brighten your day.
Thank you.
And then there's a card.
So it says, remote learning can be the pits, but better with queso and chips. We wanted you to know you're worthwhile, so we promise us your smile. Love someone in the community who cares about you.
It feels really great to be able to help other people feel good because it's a tough time right now.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
This has been an incredibly unifying, even healing gesture and effort for our community.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
We're at a very interesting point in the world of weed research.
Wrong weed. This kind, tumbleweeds, Old West stuff. Now Colorado scientists say they might have found a use for them. Next. Tonight's next question is coming from inside the house. Our producer, Kevin, has wondered for years where Denver's downtown tumbleweeds come from. I mean, out on the plains makes sense, but why are they rolling through Lodo like an old Western? We took the question to our meteorologist, Corey Reppenhagen, who is full of tumbleweed knowledge.
Tumbleweeds are everywhere in Colorado, flopping down the road, stuck in your fence, even rolling around in the middle of the city. Denver has plenty of tumbleweeds. Some blow in from the eastern plains or from the open spaces in the suburbs, but you can even find them growing in town, like these ones along the railroad tracks in North Denver. And like all weeds, they are a nuisance. Piled high and stacked together, they're a fire hazard. In the farm fields, they can reduce crop production by about 30%.
A tremendous amount of effort has gone towards trying to eliminate tumbleweeds, and it's really a kind of ongoing back and forth arms race.
The war against Colorado tumbleweeds has gone on for more than 100 years. Agricultural biologists at Colorado State University's Weed Research Laboratory use the latest technology, techniques, and strategies. But Professor Todd Gaines says the tumbleweed can't be beat.
What's tougher than a weed? You can't get rid of them no matter how hard you try. They always come back.
Well, if you can't beat them, maybe join them.
We've been trying to eliminate them for so long. How can we start to utilize the things that they're good at for our own benefit?
These plants have to have a very unique physiology.
Phil Westra, the head of the Weed Research Lab, says the tumbleweed is a super plant. It breaks from its root and spreads its seed after death. That's why they tumble. But other than that unique ability, he says it also resists and adapts to all herbicides. It can grow in the ice cold of winter, and it needs very little nutrients or water to survive. He says Colorado has two major species of tumbleweed, kochia and the Russian thistle. Both came here from Asia in the late 1800s and were inadvertently spread by the early pioneers. CSU scientists have now uncovered the molecular secrets of the tumbleweed by mapping its genome sequence.
We're at a very interesting point in the world of weed research, and instead of just sticking our toes in the water, we're going to be right up to here, right up to our necks in what we can do.
Their goal is to figure out how to transplant the amazing abilities of the tumbleweed to the crops we eat, extending their growing season and enhancing their tolerance to drought.
We're really excited, and I love getting up every morning thinking about these problems and how we can look at weeds as ways to improve our food supply.
In Fort Collins, I'm meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen for Next.
That was everything that you would ever want to know about tumbleweeds, and then like an additional 4 to 5 facts past that point. CSU says tumbleweeds die in the fall. That's when they start to tumble about. So if there's a tumbleweed season, it's like late fall, early winter when the storms blow them into town. But they're pretty hardy little suckers, so they can hold up for months and months, blowing to and fro through Rhino and Lodo. It was an elk sighting on I-25 in Denver. Yes, that will count as the most Colorado thing we've seen today. That and your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a majestic elk making its way down I-25 in Denver. It's a pretty impressive looking statue that Jane spotted on the interstate earlier this week. I like to imagine that enormous statue is going to go into a very small front yard where you almost have to kind of like turn sideways to squeeze by the antlers on the sidewalk. Like a real statement piece that says, I like elk. Email the most Colorado things you see to next@9news.com or get our attention on Twitter with the hashtag HeyNext. Got a note from somebody tonight about vaccine distribution saying, I'm an urban school teacher who could use a vaccine before the program goes rural. Help me understand, why again would we prioritize somebody because they live in an urban area versus a rural area? I don't understand that. I think the idea of prioritizing people based on their health risk factors and based on where they work, that seems to make sense. But urban, rural, I don't quite get that one. Aaron Veldheer writes in about our new music and logo, which has upset a lot of people. It says, I don't care about the song, the logo, or what kind of wood's behind you. Keep the content strong and I'm good. Aaron, that is entirely too logical to be used as feedback on this program. See you next time.